It should remember that.
Give me just a second. All right, buddy. Let's do this thing. Got your coffee?
No, I already had it earlier.
I see. All right, so let's rock and roll with this. Big Daddy, of course, and we're up and running, doing a blab right now. And it's been a while, man.
Well, excuse me. Take a few
You getting that on your end?
Yeah, I'm getting it. Who came up with that? Was that Matt from California, Sacramento?
No, I forget who sent that. I can't remember now. I think it was in was it a Facebook post or something? Yeah, God, I can't remember. It wasn't Matt though.
Oh.
It wasn't Matt from California. But all right, dude, let's frickin' break this stuff down, man. We'll just have a basic BS, as you know. Everybody, it is Big Daddy, of course, on the other end here. And we're going to break down and I call it phase 1 on this blab that we're doing. And we are live, guys. And if you're listening to this in podcast format, that's cool too. But we're trying some different things. We are, of course, we do our audio live show a lot at our live page, lawabidingbiker.com/live. And then we're on Periscope right now. And we're also, you know what? Hang on a second. Stand by. I got to switch something. All right, not going to be able to switch that right now, but that's okay. So, yeah, hit up our live page, guys, because I put out an email that we are going live. You can go to lawabidingbiker.com/live. You can check out everything there, and there's links to Periscope. There's links to Blab, so you can check if we have live video coming up. And then, of course, that page is where our audio player exists when we just do audio stuff. So everything's housed right there at lawabidingbiker.com/live. And then there is a free email sign up right there on the upper right-hand corner of that page. And that particular email list will only get you notified when we're going live. And there'll be a link right in that email, like a watch live or listen live button. And then you can come back at the specified time and it'll take you to wherever we're going to be live at. It'll take you directly there. It makes it super easy. And of course, that live list is aside from our regular podcast and media email list, which is at lawabidingbiker.com/email club. That's where we just send out when we come out with new free videos and podcasts and articles and things like that. So, all right, today we're going to break down. We've been getting a lot of requests, a lot of emails on audio systems for Harley Davidson motorcycles. And so today we could talk a lot. Big Daddy on the other end here is unbelievable amount of knowledge and has some recent experiences. I have some experiences. And we can talk about other systems probably in another episode. Depends how deep we get here. But today we're just pretty much going to focus on the Harley Davidson Boom Audio Stage 1 and Stage 2 amp and speaker systems. Of course, just to get everybody up to speed, you know, in 2014 models and newer, Harley Davidson put the Boombox Infotainment System on their touring models, and that's the whole touch screen and Bluetooth. You can play Bluetooth music via your phone or MP3 player, Bluetooth capable. And then, of course, it's got integrated GPS and all that kind of stuff. They call it the Boombox Infotainment System. And we all know we've talked about that a lot in the past, but it's really a huge head unit, just kind of like you're seeing in a lot of automobiles now, and it gives you all that capabilities of an infotainment system. Of course, Harley Davidson with that had to come out with their own Boom audio stage 1 and stage 2 amp and speaker kits. A lot of systems for Harley Davidson motorcycles for stereo, but this one is branded. I wouldn't say that they're making it, but it's branded because Harley doesn't make a lot of their stuff, just like every big company, but it's branded Boom Audio Harley Davidson. So we're going to break down. We get a lot of questions about, does it work? Does it not work? Can I use this? Can I not use this? Do I have to get my system flashed? Is it worth it? Is it worth the money? Are there better systems? Blah, blah, blah. Big Daddy has an old 2014 Ultra Limited, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, and you recently basically did the install, right? So why don't you tell me how you started with this thing, and we'll just throw it from there.
Well, I'll tell you, I learned trial by fire, which is sometimes the best way to do it. And I started out with doing a little bit of research. And I'll tell you, I bought my bike in August of 2014 down in Las Vegas, down on a trip. And I started looking on the day that I bought it. And at that time, down there, the dealer told me, you better hold off on this. It's all brand new to us. Unless it's coming from the dealer already installed, we're still kind of shaky on this. So just kind of hold off on it. So I didn't buy anything when I was down there because, of course, you saw the Screaming Eagles coming out with the saddlebag speakers and all this. And I was thinking I wanted some saddlebag speakers because my Ultra Limited has the twin cooled. So down in the lowers, I couldn't put speakers down there. So I held off for a good year. And you and I were talking a while back, and you were looking at the Hog Tunes and stuff. And so I finally, if people don't know, you can go to the dealer now and they have a wall system that you can listen to the stage 1 speakers by themselves. You can listen to stock speakers, and then you can listen to the stage 1 no amp, with amp, and then stage 2 with amp. And I will tell you, I've talked to several techs, I've talked to several parts people, and they're all confused, just like I was confused. And unless you got a big dealership that's installing these a lot, you are going to come across some confusion. Now, in the new 2016 catalog, they do a lot better job of spelling out what you're going to need. But this trial by fire for me, really, I learned quite a bit. So I started with the stage 1, and there's several different parameters that you can go with. Starting.
Hey, real quick, Rick.
Yeah.
Just for anybody watching, if you go to lawabidingbiker.com/boom audio kits, I did a blog and it shows you that wall system. I took a picture of it and kind of the different phases that we're talking about. So I'll just give people something to reference. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's start at the very beginning of what I found out. You know, before 2014, one of the best upgrades you can do, and of course Lab has a video on this, was just changing out your stock speakers. My 2010, and I know Scrappy, on your 2011, did you have? What was your black?
Yeah, I had a 2011 Street Glide. Yeah, back before I got the 14. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best upgrades you could do was getting this upgraded speakers and no amp. I mean, that was a great upgrade back then. And so,
and those were just for reference, those were just the Boom. What do they call them? Boom Audio or Boom? I got them. They were just 6-inch or something, or.
Yeah, they were just Boom Audio upgraded speakers that you could just
That's
put
right.
in. They were a great upgrade. And so when, of course, Harley doesn't really advertise them as that now. I mean, they're really pushing out the amp. But so when I first started looking, when I went forward, the first thing I looked at was just upgrading the speakers. And my system has the 4 speakers. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just look at upgrading the 4 speakers, which currently the Street Guides and the Ultras, when you upgrade, you're basically going to a 6.5 speaker from the 5s. So you are getting a bigger speaker, but it's really not that much bigger. I mean, but it is big enough to where you actually have to take out the stock speaker grill and go to the new speaker grill in order for the new speaker to fit.
And for which one is this for?
The stage 1 speakers are bigger than the stock speakers.
See, that's I didn't know that. Okay. So they are, and they still, even though they're bigger, because I put aftermarket speakers and I took out the speaker boxes and the fairing and all that. How do they fit in there if they're bigger? Are they screwing in, or
The
is that
stage one
compartment?
speakers. Yeah, the stage one speakers, you have to use those stage one grills in the front fairing. So if you look at the catalog, they'll tell you it allows you to go from to the 6.5-inch speaker.
So the speaker cabinet in the fairing will fit those.
Yeah, for the the stage 2 and stuff like that. So they actually put a whole new mounting that mounts to the inner fairing, and then the speaker then mounts to that, and it has a whole new mounting system. So
okay, hang on, I'm just make sure I'm tracking. Is it a new speaker box that that they have the big white plastic speaker box?
No, it's actually it's a whole new grill system.
Yeah, I get it. I get the grill's bigger that covers the speaker. What I'm trying to key in on is if you've got a speaker box and it's in the back of the fairing and it comes with 6-inch stock speakers, and you're taking a Boom audio speaker now, stage 1 or stage 2, and you're putting it in there and it's bigger, how does it fit in that hole if it's not
adapter ring? There's an adapter ring that goes in there, and then it allows it to fit.
Gotcha. That's what I couldn't wrap my head around. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So the first thing I looked at was maybe I'll just replace the speakers. Just put the stage 1 speakers in there and see if I can get an upgraded sound, because the stage 1 speaker does have an independent tweeter. And so I thought about that, and that's what I'm actually running right now, but we'll get to that at the end of this conversation. So then the next step I looked at was, after they came out with the listening board, was, do I want to go to the stage 1 or the stage 2? Well, I will tell you, as this story progresses, the stage 2 is not as simple as you think it is. And from a lot of the information, the emails that I've read, you can't just go from stage 1 to stage 2. So this is why it's important for the listeners. If you really want to go stage 2, you need to start at ground level and go that route. But I went with stage 1.
Okay, go ahead.
I actually went with stage 1 and bought the stage 1 kit, which the stage 1 kit, there are 2 variations of it. You can either get the Street Glide version, which will also work in the Ultras and the Classics. And that's 2 speakers for the front fairing and the amp. The amp is a 4-channel amp times 75. On the Street Glides and the Classics, they basically use the 2 channels for the front, and they leave the 2 channels for the rear unobligated, in case later on they actually give you a harness for the rear that you run to the back. Even if you don't have trunk speakers like the Ultra, there's what they call a jumper that later on, if you want to add saddlebag speakers, you can easily tie into those. So that's very important. A lot of people say, well, I'll just buy I'm just going to buy the Street Glide version. Well, they do have that rear speaker harness included in that. And the thing that's nice about that is, if you buy the $800 lid piece and then have it painted and then buy the grills and speakers, you can still do that tie into that.
Okay, so on the harness, again, just so I'm tracking, so you want to make sure when you're getting it, there's a separate, is it separate harness that you run from up front to back that you need to pay attention to, so that you have the option of adding lid speakers later? Am I tracking?
The 2 kits, the only difference between the Street Glide / Ultra Classic kit and the Ultra kit is that the Ultra kit is $200 more because it includes 4 speakers instead of 2. The actual amplifier and the wiring harnesses are the same. The Street Glide kit is $799 and the Ultra kit is $999.
Okay, so, bring your mic down just a little bit so you're in the top of it. There you go.
So when you get that kit, the stage 1 kit, you're getting everything you need. You already have the harness for the front that basically wires the amp into the Boom audio. it has that harness also is what ties into your front speakers. That power harness, then goes to your battery. And then there's also what they call the rear speaker harness that you run along that wire trough to the
underneath the tank.
Yeah, you can either lift the tank a little bit and fish pull it like I did, or you can take the tank off, and then you can actually take that wire trough cover off, and then you can run it underneath the wire trough. And then
We have a free video on tank removal, guys. Go to lawabidingbiker.com and just search for tank removal. You'll find it.
yeah, in that rear speaker wire harness, if you have the 4-speaker system like I do with the Ultra, that's what you tie into the 2 rear speakers. And then it still has the jump off for the saddlebags if you're going to eventually put those in. So it is a nice little setup. It's rather expensive, but it's a nice little setup that if eventually you want to add the saddlebag speakers, all you have to do at that point after that is buy an additional amp, and then buy the speaker lids and the speakers, etc.
Okay, so you've got an Ultra, so obviously you bought the full meal deal, the front wiring harness, and then the rear for your rear speakers. And then you're saying it has a jump off so you can do the lid speakers. Let's say a guy like me, a lot of the audience has maybe street glides. So if they just have a street glide, what's your suggestion? Just get the amp and front speakers, or should they, and then they can add the rear kit later if they want to do lid speakers, or should they get that harness and install it and have it ready?
No, what they want to do is get the 2-speaker stage 1 kit. If they're only going to do stage 1, they just want to get the 2-speaker kit, because what they'll do is they'll install that amp. They'll use the 2 channels for the 2 fairing speakers. They'll go ahead and run the rear harness, and then they'll just leave that rear harness underneath their seat. And then if they ever do decide to install saddlebag speakers, they'll already have the harness there and the jump offs. Okay.
I'm mostly tracking. I'm slow. So work with me here.
Yeah.
I totally get that part. What would be the disadvantage to, and you're talking stage 1 still, right? Amp and speakers.
Yes.
Okay. And what if they didn't run the rear wire harness? Is it going to matter if they're just going to run the front speakers?
Well, then they could never add saddlebags, or if they ever decided to, they'd have to run the wire later.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so there is the
You might
option.
as well run it. You might as well run it, Scrappy, because you're already going to have the tank off to run the power wire. So you might as well run that rear harness anyhow. And then that way you always have the option, if you want to add saddlebag speakers, you've already got the rear speaker harness there. Or if you add a removable trunk, you can always add the rear speaker pods to your trunk. So it does give you a lot of different options there by running that rear speaker harness. But understand that when you install it, even if you install it yourself, which you can, you just want to make sure you don't turn it on until you go to the dealer and you have them do the dealer software download. But every time you change the way that you're doing that system, you're going to have the dealer do a new download. And that's where Harley has done a good job of keeping this proprietary. And that's a whole other issue.
Good job, but
well, and I'll tell you, after doing some research with another company this week, they're going even further to try and keep it even more to where they're going to try and keep the sound volumes to the point to where, this is obviously if you can believe, but they want to keep the sound volumes to the point to where aftermarket guys will have a harder and harder time overriding. They want to really keep you into their Harley sound systems. But the thing is that if you buy Street Glide and you buy this system and you install the 2 speakers, you install the amp, the thing that's nice about the Harley system is it is all plug and play. And I will tell you that you are going to feel overwhelmed. When you take that fairing off and you see all these wires and you see this harness, you're going to feel overwhelmed at first because you're going to be like, there's like 5 plugins. What am I doing? And the instructions are just like everything. And that's why law-abiding biker always says, when you look at these instructions, but trust me, when we get one of these done, you'll want to buy the video because it will make a lot more sense. And I've done it, and it'll be a lot easier just watching the video and plug and playing, because it is really easy because it's all plug and play. But once you run it and it's there, the saddlebag thing that's going to be interesting is that you will have to buy an additional amp, and those amps aren't cheap. They're $599 a piece. So those are the things you need to consider. If you're just going to do the street glide, and that was your question, Ryan, buy the 2-speaker with the amp system, run the rear harness, and then save up and buy yourself another amp, and then the saddlebag covers and the speakers. You can do that, or buy them all at once if you're going to do it all at once. I mean, that's really what you got to decide with the Stage 1.
Right, and you brought up some good points, Big Daddy. Yeah, guys, we've been, obviously, I did the HogTunes system. You can go to lawabidingbiker.com/HogTunes. There's an install video there. It will save you a lot of time because, like Big Daddy says, it's not, it seems like it should be easy, but it's not. Like he says, when you get in there and you're not sure of what goes where, I'm telling you, a video and a hands-on, instruction actually makes it, you watch the video, like, actually, it's pretty simple, but it doesn't make sense if you just dive in there. And especially with the Boom, the Harley Davidson Boom Stage 1 and 2 kits. And we have obviously had, which is why we're doing this episode right here and why we're on Blab and all that and Periscope right now, is we've had a ton of people asking about specifically the Boom, and people love the HogTunes one too. That's a great system. And they're loving that. It's a lot cheaper, about half the price. And a lot of people are asking about this. And so, yes, we are going to do a video eventually when we acquire a complete Boom audio system. We'll talk a little bit later about some kind of what we're waiting for on that, but we will be doing it. And then Big Daddy is in contact. We're in contact with 2 other companies. Lurch is in contact with one other aftermarket stereo company, and then Big Daddy is. We're not going to mention those right now because we're trying to work something out with them to see what we can do about doing some install videos and stuff for you guys. But we will. So keep checking back. Eventually, we will do the Harley system, depending on which direction they go, which we will talk about at the end. So, all right, dude, why don't you pick up from there?
Okay. The other thing that you got to consider with these, the Stage 1, is that once you go down this road at Stage 1, you're stuck at Stage 1.
What is Stage 1 specifically, though? I know it's the amp speakers.
Well, the amp is the same for the Stage 1 and the Stage 2. The difference is the dealer download, telling the Boom audio and the computer where to send the signals and how to distribute those signals, and the speakers.
Right, but the Phase 1, what I'm saying is there's the Phase 1 and Phase 2. They both come with amp and speakers. The Phase 1 speakers are just 2-way, and the Phase 2 or 3-way. Make that easy for everybody.
Yeah, the Stage 1 speakers are a 2-way speaker with a woofer and a tweeter. The Stage 2 speakers are a 3-way with a woofer, a mid-range, and a tweeter. And in particular, the Stage 2s also have a crossover system in them. So they distribute, the Stage 2s distribute the sound kind of like you would see like in a, the best way to put it is like in the home stereo. If you bought like a home stereo speaker, a lot of times a high quality home stereo speaker, they'll have a built-in crossover in the back that will send the bass to your woofer, the mid ranges to your mid, and the highs to your tweet. That's the way the Stage 2s work. The other thing with the Stage 2s is that the amplifier takes, one amplifier only works 2 channels. So to give you an idea, the listeners an idea, If you have a 4-channel amplifier in a stage 1, the amplifier will power 4 speakers. So stage 1, the amplifier will power all 4 speakers on a Harley Davidson Ultra Limited, the 2 fairings and the 2 trunk speakers. In a stage 2 on an Ultra Limited, you would need 2 amps. There would be the amp underneath the fairing, which would power, there would be 2 channels to the left speaker, 2 channels to the right speaker. Then you would have another amp to the trunk, and it would be the same thing. So those speakers actually require 2 channels, 1 channel to the woofer, 1 channel to the mid and tweet. That's why they sound so good, and that's why they're much more powerful.
Gotcha. Thank you. That brings it for me, because I'm not a huge stereo guy, techie guy, obviously, but when it comes to this, man, that helped a lot me visualize that. So thanks. It's called a braingasm.
Well, it was kind of interesting when, how I found this out and is I had the stage 1, and I called up the dealer and I said, I want to switch out my front speakers to stage 2. Is it an easy switch out? And the parts guy said, oh yeah, it's an easy switch out. He was looking at the 2015 catalog.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the phone with you, and I was there for 4 hours after they agreed to, I was getting new tires put on. Usually I do my own work. I was getting new tires put on because it was a free tire install. Ryan knows this. And
Yeah.
so as long as I was there, they said, hey, if you buy these speakers, we'll put the speakers in for $50. And I said, well, the bike's already in here for free tires. I'll pay them $50 and they can put the front speakers in. It will only take an hour, they said. 4 hours later, they had it took 4 hours because they put the speakers in and found out that they couldn't do it because of this amp issue. So trust me, you guys are learning something that I had to learn 4 hours of waiting. So even when you think you're getting a good deal, say $50 is a good deal to have them install the speakers for you. Trust you, because it is, but you can do it yourself. But the interesting thing is that they didn't even realize that the amp with those speakers, they won't work. But in the 2016 catalog, if you look, there is now a footnote in there that says stage 2 will not work with stage 1. If stage 1 is installed, stage 2 won't work. The reason is because once your stage 1 is installed, you can't just put stage 2 speakers in. Now, there is a caveat to that.
Why would be what some are asking, and you can get to it however you want to do that.
Well, because you'll lose your rear speakers. You have to add another amp. See,
right.
And plus you have to do a new dealer download. A lot of people think that once you have the stage 1, you have the radio down. Let's say you put in the stage 1, you put in the 2 street glide. Let's just do street glide. So you put in the amp, you put in the 2 front speakers, and you put in the dealer download. There are guys that are going and buying stage 2 speakers for $300, and they're putting the speakers in, and they're thinking that it's going to work, and it's not, because the speakers take the 2 channels instead of the 4 channels. They take the 2 channels, but they don't have the proper download. Plus,
so they could fix that though, just with a download.
They could fix it with the download, but the other issue is that with the Ultra Limited, you have to have another amp. So what they're saying is for the stage 2, you just build it from scratch. Because so if you're going to do stage 2, they called the master tech at the factory, at the customer service deal, and he says, we're telling people if you're going to do stage 2, just do it from the beginning. And now Harley Davidson has actually come out with a list, and if you look in your 2016 catalog, they actually have in the back, you can look in the back of the catalog by model of your bike, and it'll tell you everything that you need for stage 2. If you just want stage 1, it's just like the 2015 catalog. It will show the picture of it, It'll list the part number. It'll give you a description of everything. But if you want stage 2, and when you look at that catalog, it'll list you everything. It will show the amp. It will show the speakers. It will show the harness. It breaks everything down individually, because people were going and buying stage 1s, and then they were going around exactly what the parts guy told me. Yeah, just replace the speakers. Well, I could have turned around, left those speakers in, but I would have lost my rear speakers. Well, what happens in 3 years when I want to go sell my bike and some guy wants an Ultra, he wants rear speakers, right? Now my rear speakers don't work. But I could have spent $600 more, bought another amp, and then turned around and had the rear speakers, but then I would have had to have bought stage 2 speakers. So now I'm into it another $1,000 for an amp and more stage 2 speakers. So it wasn't worth it. So that's why I want the listeners to be very clear. Decide beforehand, what do you want to do? Do you want to go stage 1? Do you want to go full on stage 2 like the Screaming Eagle Harley Davidson CVOs? Because that's what they're running. If that's the sound you want, start from scratch, but be prepared because it's big money.
Yeah, what are we talking here, dude? For an ultra limited, for 4 speakers, 2 amps, harnesses, for like, you're just a guesstimate.
Well, the amps are $599 a piece.
That's crazy, dude.
The stage 2 speakers are I think they're either $399 a piece, $399.
All I know, for a stage 2, for my Street Glide, if I were to do a stage 2 speakers and amp, that's like $1,100 just for the wire harness, the amp, and the 2 front speakers.
Yeah.
So I can imagine at least another $1,100 for the rear speakers, rear harness, and amp.
Yeah. And you start doing saddlebags. You get a primered saddlebag, and then the 6x9 speakers. It gets very expensive. They told me, I called Las Vegas Harley Davidson a couple of weeks ago to ask them, and they had a guy that spent almost $4,000 doing a full setup on his deal.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, but I did the stage 1, and at the end of the day, I wasn't super impressed with it, but I'll tell you, it did the job, but I wasn't super impressed with it. So I ended up taking the amplifier out.
Let's talk before we do that. So you had the stage 1, and we're going to talk about why you weren't happy with it. So we'll pick back up there in a sec. What I want to know is, or I think we've kind of glazed over a little bit, is the dealer downloads, because we've just, in a broad sense, mentioned that. And so I'm going to break that down for the listeners a little bit. So with the Boom audio system, the Boombox infotainment system, like Rick said early on, Harley's just honestly raping people, because they've got a very proprietary type system. And so with the Boombox, this is how great it is. If you do the Boom audio phase 1 speaker and amp upgrade, or the phase 2 speaker and amp upgrade, either way, you get to not only purchase that speaker and amp kit, which is worth half of what they're selling it for, because it's branded Harley Davidson. Once you get it installed, then you get to pay the dealership another, depending on the dealership, $50 to $75 to have them do what's called a flash, or you'll hear like Rick called it a dealer download. And really all it is proprietary software that only Harley Davidson has. Nobody else can get their hands on it. And that allows them to go into settings within that Boombox system that we can't access. I can access a lot of settings on the Boombox system, but without that dealer download or flash, you can't get into those settings. And so what they do is, with that proprietary software, hook it up to a laptop, and they can go in and they can tell the Boombox how to act depending on what kind of amp and what kind of speaker setup it has. And you do have to do it, or it's not going to, your new Boom audio stage 1 or stage 2 is not going to work. And so you get to pay them $50 to $75 every time you want that done. Or like Rick says, if you do decide to go from phase 1 or stage 1 to stage 2, then you get to pay them another $75 or whatever it is for the dealer download. And so they got you coming and going, and that's Rick alluded to it a little bit earlier, is that's why you kind of want to obviously make sure what you want to do right away, as far as, stage 1 or stage 2 and that kind of stuff. And he alluded to the fact that that's why it's hard for some of these aftermarket companies. They're all doing it a different way. Hog Tunes is getting around it. You don't even have to have it flashed, but that's something that they're doing in their amp, really to get the best sound. It's and we're testing, so I won't even say that. We're testing another system. We won't say the name, but they're getting around it too, right? Without having to, or do you have to do a download with them?
No download.
Okay. There's another company we're working with, and they do it. They do the amp and speakers, but then you have to go to a Harley dealer and have the dealer download. So they're actually building it kind of like the Harley system, and then they have instructions for the dealership. You take it with when you get the kit, and you take the little instructions, and it tells the Harley dealer, hey, set the system to these settings for this setup. It comes with there. I think you know what company I'm talking about too.
Yeah.
The one Lurch is working on. So
yeah.
All right. So hopefully that gives you guys an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about flashing or dealer downloads. And yes, it's proprietary, and no, nobody else has it. And Harley Davidson is definitely not going to give access to that, because what a money-making machine. So tell me, how long does it take them to flash this ridiculous thing?
Well, I didn't see them. It was pretty quick. I mean, they're just plugging it in and going. But they told me at the local dealership here, if you pay for the install, they're not charging anything extra for the flash. But if you're going in and they have to set it up and do it, there is a charge. I mean, obviously, if you're paying them for the install of the system, I think they're including that.
Well, yeah, but that's all semantics.
Yeah, I mean,
they're putting it in there. They're however they want to say it's part of you're paying for it.
Yeah, and the thing is here is that, with the stage 1, I mean, they're basically telling the computer, shut off the 25 watts per channel times 4. That's all it is. They're basically telling, because you're switching.
That's how the Boombox is.
Yeah, the stock Boombox is 25 watts times 4.
Okay, thank you.
So what it's doing is the stock. So when you go in and you switch to, let's say you buy the stage 1, when they do that download, that's why they tell you, if you do it yourself, don't turn the radio on, because if you do, you're going to overpower it and you can blow out the speakers, because now instead of having 75 watts times 4, you have 100 watts times 4. So when you do that download from the dealer, it shuts off the internal amplifier on the stereo, and then it also adds fader control, a different fader control. So anybody who has a Street Glide Classic or Ultra Limited now, you'll know that if you go into your fader and it's stock, you go into your settings, all you have is a bar similar to your bass and treble line that just goes front to rear. The little hash marks that kind of move left to right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you get the stage 1 download, it actually becomes more animated, and it becomes kind of like a grid system for the fader.
I saw that down in Sturgis.
Yeah, so it looks different. So the only things that I could tell the difference in the stage 1 downloads was it shuts down the internal amplifier, and it changed the fader system. The fade looked different.
I saw down there with once they do the download, they had in Sturgis this year at the Harley booth, they had an Ultra with the stage 2 4 and lid speakers and everything, and they could go in and the other company had it too, but it looked like the bike. It was a picture of the bike, and you could move things around the bike did you see that? They could literally, they had a picture of a bike, and they could move, like fade it to the back, and they could take it and touch it and move it, and it would kind of towards the rear of the bike, and that would fade it towards the rear and stuff. It was cool.
Yeah. That was at the stage 2 or the stage 1?
No, it was a stage 2.
Yeah, see, mine was the stage 1, so it just allowed like an animated graphic. And but see, I started out originally with the speakers alone, and I thought that was an upgrade, and then I bought the amp, and so I had the kit. But yeah, I mean, there is the download, and it's good, and they did the download, and so it worked. But I eventually, like I said, I took the amp out. So I don't know when you want to get into that and why.
Let's that I just wanted to cover dealer downloads just so people weren't confused. So you ran the Stage 1 with the front speakers and your rear, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you replace your rears, or did you use the stock speakers?
I replaced the rears. I did the fronts and then the rears.
Okay. And so you're running Stage 1, which means if you've educated me properly, Stage 1, he replaced his front fairing speakers, his trunk speakers, back where the passenger sits, and he was able to run 1 amp, and it was mounted up in the fairing, and that 1 amp ran all 4 Stage 1 speakers.
Yeah, 75 watts per channel.
Right there. You educated me, see? Or either that or I was paying attention. One of the two. So,
yep.
All right. Go from there. So you ran the system.
Yeah.
Didn't like it or what?
System. Well, before, when I did a lot of research on this thing, and if you look at HarleyDavidson.com in the early issuance of this system, there was a lot of negative feedback on Harley.com regarding the system. But there
still is.
Yeah, it's gotten better, and it seemed like a lot of it was around the Boom software downloads. And you and I have had this conversation that Harley and their software downloads continually tries to improve the downloads as far as the sound volume and sound equalization and stuff like that. There's hidden stuff in there that we'll never know that every time they do a download. And people were complaining about the sound didn't sound right, etc. When I first got the system, it was noticeably louder. When you read the paragraph in the book, it talks about much fuller sound, louder. And when you think 25 to 75 watts, you're thinking that that's quite a bit.
Jumping from 25 to 75 watts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you, my first impression was, okay, yeah, this sounds nicer. But after I had it for 3 weeks, I didn't think it was worth the money. I didn't think it was worth as much as I spent for all the money that I invested in it. $1,000. I don't think I got my dollar's worth out of it. There's little things. I mean, yes, it's louder, but I couldn't turn the volume past halfway, or it would become distorted. I had to turn my bass all the way down. Running just stock speakers, I could run my bass. And yes, I understand. The first thing when you tell a dealer this, they're going to tell you it's a motorcycle. There's not supposed to be bass. Yeah, I get that. It's a 6-inch speaker. I get that. However, when I'm running 25 watts with a stock speaker and I can leave the bass at neutral and have a full sound, and then you add an extra 50 watts, and I have to turn the bass from neutral down to -3. And I'm not talking like down just 3 bars, and maybe I'm not visualizing this right. Picture taking your bass all the way to where there is no bars period and then adding 3 bars back.
That's crazy.
It was almost like the amp was too powerful for the speakers. And it wasn't just the bass, it was everything. It was the kick drum. It was and I'm not listening to rap music. I'm listening to country, maybe some rock. I have an XM radio in my on my bike. So it was just way too much. It just I wanted more full sound. So basically the mids were good, the tweets were good, but for $1,000, I would expect that I should be able to turn it up more than half. Now, was the half louder than the half without the amp? Absolutely. But I have heard systems now that with Stage 2 that are a lot more full sounding, a lot better sounding. And so that's why before I took my amp out, I considered going to the Stage 2, which was the debacle that we started to lead to, and then we stayed on the Stage 1 topic. So that's why I was literally committed to going to the Stage 2 at one point, because it is so much fuller sounding. But that's a whole nother deal. But which led to just taking the amp out and starting for a new product.
Yeah, and I do want to hold that thought. And so I want to talk about the Boom Audio in-store displays, guys. So you'll go to your Harley Davidson dealership, a lot of them, and they have the big board, and they've got the different buttons, and you can try phase 1, and you can push the button and try stage 1 and stage 2. I keep calling it phase, but stage 1, stage 2. And you can test all these different systems. You can test it with the amp and without the amp and all that. And I will tell you, that misleads people, because that board sounds really freaking awesome, and it sounds good, and you can get the bass. Okay, that's not the same that it sounds on a bike. I'll just tell you that I was in Sturgis in the Harley booth, and they had it, and I listened to a couple different systems. It sounds good, but it is nothing near what that sounds. Plus, that's indoors, and you take a bike outdoors. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, and plus in the system, in the deal, it's in a enclosure that's got a deep enclosure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, the rear
That's
on my
misleading.
Ultra Limited, my rear speakers sound phenomenal. But you got to remember, on the Ultra Limited, the rear speakers, they're ported into the trunk, so it's almost like I have this big. I mean, my rear speakers sound fantastic, and so the front variant speakers don't have much of a port enclosure. But I'll tell you, if you're Joe Blow and you're looking to upgrade your speaker because you just want it a little bit louder because you do a lot of touring, don't be afraid to buy the Stage 1. Okay, don't be afraid of it. It did make it louder. It did add some fuller sound. I'm just saying, for me, it wasn't what I was looking for. That's all I'm saying. It's for me, for the money. I think I was looking for something a little bit different. When I tested it in the showroom and I heard it on some bikes sitting stationary, I thought it was the cat's meow. And then when I got it out and rode 5,530 miles in 6.5 days, stuff got real. I mean, you guys got real. We ride. I mean, I know some of you probably ride, but I mean, if you listen to our podcast, I mean, you know that we ride. I mean, Law Dog and I, we went to Pittsburgh and back. And when you're doing 5,530 miles and all you have to do is listen to the radio, you start picking out, nitpicking little things about your radio and the sound, and you're listening to different kinds of music, and you're wondering why the kick drum on this particular type of music is distorting, and why is one bar doing this? Or, I mean, literally, 923 miles in one day, and you're testing the bass levels because you're bored and you got to find something to do. So that was a real test for me. And so, but if you're just the guy that does a couple 300-mile rides throughout the year and some 10 200s or whatever, the system will work fine for you. And it is there's some advantages to it, Scrappy, because I mean, think about it. It is plug and play. It is
right.
Plug and play, and the harness is no different than anybody who's worked on a car. If anybody's worked on a car and done fuel injections, a fuel injection harness, it's basically the same thing. So it is easy for you guys to do. Just got to make sure that you don't turn it on until you get to the dealer and get that download. So I can see where there's some people that
don't turn it on. What if somebody does turn it on?
Well, you could overpower it and blow the speakers out. You can't turn it on until you get that download, because and that's right in the directions. I mean, you don't, if the dealer's not doing the install, You can't turn it on until you get the download done.
Okay, good to know. What about the phase or the stage one? If you say there's a guy that just wants a little more sound, can't he just do the stage one speakers and no amp at all and just run it straight off the Boombox, plug them in and go?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
See, yeah.
That's what I'm doing right now. I took the amp out and I have a little bit richer sound. I do notice a difference,
Without
obviously.
the amp.
Yeah, I notice a difference without the amp. But now my bass is at mid-level instead of all the way down. But the advantage to having those stage one speakers is that now I have that tweeter. So I actually do have better highs than the stock speakers. Also, the other advantage, and you guys might laugh at this, but the covers not only look better, the speaker grills not only look better, but I think they're more protective. Anybody here who has a Ultra, you know that if you have a passenger on the back, it only takes an elbow to punch in those soft cloth covers, and they're the same ones that are up on the fairing on the stock speaker grills. And so when I turned around and put those stage one speakers in, the first thing Cindy told me was, "Thank God you put those in. I've been worried about knocking in those cloth speaker grills and ruining your speakers since you bought this thing," because she had done that. Well, she had hit them before on another bike that I'd had. So the stage one speakers, they are nice in that you get the new steel speaker grill, and so there is some more protection there, and they do look good. You can actually look into your grill and you can look through the grill and see the speaker, and I think they look a little nicer and they give you more protection. But they do sound a little bit better because of that tweet.
Yeah.
But there's some good aftermarket options too.
There is, and yeah, you're right.
And we're gonna
do
the hog tunes sound good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is. And we have done the hog tunes, like I say, guys, lawabidingbiker.com/hog tunes. And, that's a good system too, half the price. And we're testing some other stuff too, just to put our feelers out there and get the information to you guys. But it takes time and it takes money and to try to acquire these systems. And then we try to work with the companies. So, we can have their input and some things like that. But so basically what, Rick, if I have it right, is, it's give or take with the stage one or the, as far as whether you put the amp or not, pretty good sound without the amp. And I found that too with some aftermarket systems is, it sounds good with the amp and it's loud, but you can still only turn it up a little over halfway because the amp's overpowering the speakers. And then you pull the amp and just run the speakers off the Boom audio system and it actually sounds just as loud. You just have to turn it up more, but at least you can turn it up all the way without it distorting. So kind of give or take. A little more bass with the amp sometimes, but again, how much bass are you going to get out of that? I noticed the speakers moving more, but I don't know. It's an interesting situation with the Boom system and all this amp stuff.
Yeah, to give you an idea, I could never get my stage one with the amp installed over half. I could never get it over half volume. I could get maybe one mark over half, and then over that it would distort. I mean, it just, whether it was drums or whatever. Now just running Boom stage one speakers off of the Boom stock, I can get the same amount of volume, but it's 3/4 up instead of half.
Hang on. Somebody on Periscope is saying, and it's a good question. I could only monitor Periscope a little bit. We're actually on Blab IM, guys, where we're chatting, but he says it sounds like the speaker gain was up too high. Address that.
Well, I can't because it's done through the dealer
Right.
download. So I asked them when they did the dealer download, they do it exactly, they program it as it is. So when I first had the issue and I thought it was a little loud like that, I asked them to double check it, and they plugged it in and they said, yeah, it's set for stage 1.
Yep, and that's the
So
problem,
unless
guys.
if he's a Harley tech and he knows something that I don't, that they can actually do some adjustments for that. That'd be great to know. Maybe he can share that with us on and we can relay that to our listeners. But the master tech at this dealership said that when they do the download, they're basically telling it what is the system, what are they putting into it, which in this case is simply stage 1, the stage 1 with the amplifier, 4 speakers. And so that's what it does. And I know another guy who has the same deal, and he says it's the same thing. He said, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's, you what am I going to do? Argue with them about it? Like, hey, I think this sounds like junk, when it's over this, I can't add any bass. Oh, well, but they double checked it and they said that they have the proper download in it, and it did sound good at half, but it was just like I said, as soon as it got over that, it sounded a little distorted. But if he has some knowledge
No, I think it was just a general question because
yeah,
a lot of people have experience with car stuff, and so they just think that. I don't think it was anything other than a question. You know, and I had the problem with the aftermarket thing too. With the amp was overpowered, and I was on with their master tech for their company, and we messed with gain. That didn't fix it at all. It's too much power for the situation where the speakers are and stuff. So
yeah. The one thing is that I don't want people to be confused is that on a normal amplifier, like what with the company I've been talking with, or a car amplifier, you do have some individual settings where you can adjust the gains and stuff. On the Harley Davidson Boom amplifier, there is nothing to adjust. When you look at the amplifier, it's a
right.
sealed unit. Everything is done via download to the computer, or to the boombox. So that's why, when he posed a question, the first thing I was thinking is, okay, he's thinking of a normal amp. Well, the Boom doesn't really allow that, but they may have that option within the dealer download. And so that's why I can't answer that, because when I asked them that, they said, no, we just tell it, yeah, we've installed the stage 1 amplifier, stage 1 speakers. That's how they describe literally how simple it is. When they do a stage 2, they tell it stage 2, 2 speakers.
Right. It's already
Or
preset from the factory.
Yeah, or stage 2, 6 speakers. If they're adding, let's say it's an Ultra with saddlebags, or it's a Street Glide CVO, or a Street Glide that you bought and you're going to add saddlebags and you're going to add lower speakers or something. You literally just tell them what to do. Versus like with an amplifier for a car, you can adjust the gains and stuff like that. But with the Harley Davidson one here, there's nothing on the outside. I wish there was some way for me to show people up close where you could actually see it. Or if you go to the dealer and see go to the dealer and look at the box, the listening box. They have it right there. You'll see there's no you can't even hook wires up to it. It's all plug and play through the harness. It's really quite interesting. It's nice that it's a completely sealed unit. I mean, once you plug in the terminals, it's completely sealed, and it's not like your normal amp where you got your Phillips screws where you then turn around and plug in your wire. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, good call to put that in perspective. Yeah, and I guarantee Harley, they have, like you say, basic downloads that they're not messing with. The techs can't even understand how to do this, let alone if they had to mess with anything but, okay, this is his setup, this is what he's got, and we're gonna install that. They're not gonna fine tune anything. It's gonna be just a basic, real easy download. So all right, so you're moving from obviously you're done with a Boom audio for the time being, and we have explored, of course, Hogtunes, lawabidingbiker.com/Hogtunes, and then we're going to explore some other companies, and you're just running those speakers for now. Yeah.
Well, we need to go through the stage 2.
Let's do it.
Part real quick, because the reason why this happened was because I had the full stage 1 in with the amplifier and the 4 speakers. And I talked to the parts dealer, and I said, you know, I think this amp is just too powerful for these speakers, because I get over half and it just seems like it's distorted based on the drums and stuff like that. Can I go to a stage 2 speaker in my front fairing? And the parts guy says, oh, yes. And I happen to have a set. I said, okay, great. I'll be down this weekend to have my tires changed, and I'll pick them up and I'll install them myself. So I got down there to have 2 new tires installed with a free tire install. And the guy says, hey, you know, if you want us to install these speakers, we'll install the speakers, and it's not going to take us very long. It won't cost you much. And I'm like, well, hey, you know, you're already there. You're already doing the deals. Let's do it. Neither the tech nor the master tech knew that you could not install stage 2 speakers onto the stage 1 speaker or stage 1 system. That's how we found out that you basically have to build the stage 2 from the ground up. So they basically, this was all trial by fire. They took the fairing off. They installed the stage 2 speakers. They were honest with me. They initially wired up the stage 2 speakers just like they did the stage 1, and they could not get the woofer to work or the tweeter to work. And so they called me to the back and they let me listen to it. And I said, well, you know that is a 2-channel speaker. And they said, what? I said, that's a 2-channel speaker. The stage 1 speaker is a 1-channel speaker. That's why you have 4 channels on the amp, 4 channels for 4 speakers. The stage 2 speaker is a 2-channel speaker, 1 to the mid and tweet, 1 to the woofer. So you need to run 2 channels to the left speaker to the front and 2 channels to the right. And they said, well, if that's the case, you can't run anything to the rear. But see, I didn't even know that until they told me it wouldn't work. And I opened up the book, and right in the 2016 book, it says this. It's a 2-channel book. And I said, well, it says right here, it's a 2-channel. This isn't going to work. So they called the parts guy over, and the parts guy comes running down, and he's like, yeah. And they go, you sold them this speaker saying that they were going to work, that it would just be a plug and play, just a change out. They're not going to work. He goes, yeah, they will. And so I show him the book, and I said, it says right here that it won't work on a stage 1 system. So the first thing they do is they look at me and they go, well, do you want to add another amp to the rear speakers? And then you're going to have to add stage 2 speakers, because once you do the download and tell the computer, the Boom audio system, that you've gone to stage 2, if you leave the rear speakers as stage 1, it won't work properly. So that's why they say you cannot, when you ask the question, why can't you just go from stage 1 to stage 2? It's all based on the downloads. Because if you have a stage 1 and you turn around, you can't, if you have a stage 1, you can't just replace the speakers with stage 2 speakers, because 1, it's a different download, but number 2, 1 amp won't work with 4 speakers. You'll have to add another amp. And then the other thing people will try to do is they'll replace just the 2 front speakers, which in my case is what I was going to do, because I don't run the rear trunk all the time. Remember, we did the detachable kit, which we have a video on, where we removed my detachable trunk. So I was going to leave the stage 1 in the rear. Well, that's not going to work, because once you tell the computer that the 4 speakers are stage 2 speakers, it's going to treat those 2 speakers as 2-channel speakers instead of 1 channels, and they won't work correctly. So that's why I really want the listeners to know, if you're going to go stage 2, and I did hear some stage 2s there on the CVOs, and they sound fantastic.
They do sound great.
But you're going to have to do that. Just go from the get-go. Go stage 2 right from the beginning, but look in the 2016 catalog, and it will give you that list of everything you're going to need.
Yep. So let's talk about some of our things that we're a little bit sketchy about, and that is with the stage 1 and stage 2 right now. It was you that brought it to my attention that they're no longer selling certain things, or you think they're, give me your predictions. You think they're Harley's had so much problems with it that they're going to recreate a different stage 3 or something, or give me your thoughts on this and why. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, if you go to harleydavidson.com and if you pull up the stage 2 speakers, they have a note there saying no longer available online. So I don't know if they're going to be coming out with a new speaker or what. And the dealer where I bought my stage 2 said that he had the one set that he had ordered, and he said that that was good because he couldn't order any more. So I don't know. I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing that they might be coming out with a new speaker for the stage 2, which would not be uncommon. I don't know that if that necessarily means that there's a problem with it, because they are in all the CVOs. Maybe they're coming out with a new and upgraded one. But the stage 1 kits, whether the 2 speaker or the 4 speakers, are in the 2016 catalog and are still available online.
Okay. Well, we'll see. They might be trying to fine tune things because they have had some problems, but I guess that's just guessing. We don't know for sure, but all right. What else? Anything else on this? We wanted to get it out there for you guys because we just have a ton of questions, and Rick has educated the heck out of me because I've been dealing with another aftermarket system that I'm pretty familiar with, but this whole Boom system is just confusing as hell to everybody, including, as you can tell, the Harley techs or the Harley mechanics. They don't. I've talked to our local dealership and they hate them because they're rather confusing when it comes to all this stuff. And the mothership, HD headquarters, didn't really educate the dealerships from the ground up on the Boombox system itself. So it's been kind of a spiral effect.
I will tell you that the 3 techs told me, the 2 regular techs told me that they've installed 3 stage 1 systems, and the master tech told me that they hadn't installed 1 stage 2 system yet, hadn't installed any, and that this was the first time they had seen the stage 2 speakers. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing at all. I'm just saying that they are so new and dependent on how big the dealership is, and how many systems they're doing. Just do your research, because and then, like I said, that's not a knock for any dealership. It's you could have the best master tech there is, but they can put a cam in, or they can put in a new set of heads, or make your 103 a 110 really easy, because that's what they're learning at UTI or MMI. Mm-hmm. But these electronics are different, and yeah, these stage 1 and stage 2 systems are plug and play as far as the harnesses and the downloads. But all 3 of these techs told me, yeah, we've only done a couple of these systems, and this is the first stage 2, and we can't figure out why this isn't working. And I'm not trying to make myself sound smart, because I'm not, but I literally just opened up the catalog and opened it up to the stage 2 speakers, and I said, hey guys, it says right here this won't work with the stage 1 system. And he looks at me and he goes, well, that's our effing problem. And I'm like, and so they called the parts guy and they said, get your ass down here. And they said, you sold him a system that won't work. And he goes, yes, it will. And they started arguing there as my bike's on the lift. And why won't it work? And I go, because it's a 2-channel. It takes 2 channels instead of 1. It says right here. And they're like, oh yeah. And the tech looked right at me. And he goes, I'm sorry, man. He goes, I don't know speaker stuff. He goes, I can make this thing go fast. And so yeah, right. It's nothing. It's just, but I bet you if you go to some of these big dealerships that are installing these all the time, you'll get a ride on, and it'll be done quick. So whatever you choose to do,
they've had time to, those big dealerships, to do it and learn it and all that. And don't forget, guys, aside from the audio, this aftermarket or upgraded speakers and all that, just the stock Boombox system that's coming on the touring models. Of course, we have the #1 best-selling Harley Boombox infotainment videos, guys. Tutorial to get you up and running with this thing in a way that's not confusing for you at all. You'll totally get it. Just head over to lawabidingbiker.com/Harley Boombox. There's the basic video, which will get you up and running from the system just so you can operate it and know how to set it. There's all kinds of hidden menus. Again, I make it super easy. People all over the world loving that video. I get props for it each day. And then the second one, of course, is it's also housed over there on that page. And it is the how to make sure your software within the system is up to date at all times, which it needs to be. They're coming out with new software updates, just like your smartphone. That's how they're working some of the bugs and problems out, which it still has a lot of bugs and problems, but you need to make sure it's up to date. So, and then the third one is Ride Planner, how to plan your rides online, map them out, and then get them uploaded into your Boombox system so you can use the integrated GPS. Again, all housed over at lawabidingbiker.com/Harley Boombox. Take one video at a time and you'll be squared away. Then, if you feel like it later, you can get into this stereo upgrade. I would learn that stuff first and then think about this kind of stuff. So what else as we wrap it up here, man? This is long, but it's good because this information is just evergreen and invaluable. This will answer a shitload of emails that we're getting reference this. I can just refer people to this episode when it airs. Of course, this is live on Periscope and on Blab IM, and then it will come out in regular podcast format.
Yeah. The only advice I got is that before you even start, decide what you want. Decide what you want, because if all you're wanting is stage one and that that's what you want, then buy that system. If you think what you're wanting is what you hear on those CVOs, then just go that route to begin with, the stage twos to begin with, because once you spend that $799 or $999 for the stage one, there's no going back. There's no going back, because now you got to turn around and toss out the speakers. You got to buy another amp. You got to buy other stuff, and do your research. Also, you may find other aftermarket stuff that you like, and hopefully we'll be able to have some stuff out pretty soon on that as well.
Yep. Stay tuned, guys, because we are, like I say, we're finished with the Hogtunes, lawabidingbiker.com/Hogtunes. It's a great system. It sounds great. It's what I'm running on my bike right now. Just an amp and front speakers. And then you can run it without the amp too if you just want the speakers. I explained that a little bit. But it's fine. It's a great system. And we're going to talk. So stay tuned, because Rick's in contact with the company. Lurch is in contact with the company. There are two other big names. Aftermarket. We just really want to test this stuff for you guys before and it takes time, because it's a big deal to install. It's a big deal to do appropriate testing. It's a big deal to, work with these companies to make sure that it's legit as far as what we're doing on our end, that we're not, that we're getting the proper sound and for their product and stuff like that. But definitely, guys, get signed up for the free email list, lawabidingbiker.com/email club. And we will shoot you an email when we come out with new free stuff like that. And once in a while, there are for purchase videos. And then again, we are live. We're going to be doing some of this blab.im, guys. It's video live. And make sure you go to our live page, lawabidingbiker.com/live. Sign up for the email list there so you know when we're going live. And also, we have the audio live over there, and then video. And there's links to everything. Periscope. We're doing some Periscope stuff now. But this blab's pretty cool because, we got two of us here. There's kind of like the Brady Bunch. But there's only four. And actually, I left this seat unlocked here. I don't know if you noticed that, Rick, in case anybody else had some integral knowledge. I left that seat unlocked so they could actually join in, and they would actually later be on air on the podcast. But nobody joined that seat, and that's okay. It's a pretty in-depth subject. So, yeah, buddy, man, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I know you're going to learn even more with this new system. I can't wait. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said, the best way to learn sometimes is by making the mistakes, and I had to learn from the text kind of explain things to me, and I had to learn by reading and doing a lot of blog searches. So by other people's mistakes, etc., and just decide what you want first before you buy.
That's what we do here at Law Abiding Biker Media. Flatten the learning curve for you guys. We do all the testing and installs and everything, and then put it into a package so it's super easy for bikers out there, so they're not confused and don't have to get any more gray hairs. So that's what we're all about. All right, buddy. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, you gonna get it? You gonna ride it all today? Oh,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. Since I installed those bars yesterday, those 14-inch bars, I think I'm gonna take it out for a test ride.
yeah, heck yeah, dude. Yeah, I wish I could get down there. I don't think I can do it today. I got too much stuff to do, but yeah, they turned out good though, huh?
Yeah, the wiring went pretty quick. It was nice, the tips that you had and Lurch had. I couldn't find any aircraft wire, so I bought some 16 gauge wire that was pretty flexible and taped it up and pulled it through pretty easily. I was pretty impressed with those bars though. They were $109 versus $170 for the Cycle Smiths, and I bought them through the lab affiliate link at JMP Cycle.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I saw that. I saw your group me or text or whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah, they look just
lawabidingbiker.com/JMP.
Yeah, and they went on really smooth, the wiring and everything. And I used the butt connectors instead of soldering.